Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Library. It's lovely to have you here tonight. Before we begin, I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from. Are you nestled in bed with the lights dimmed low? Perhaps you're on a quiet evening walk, or curled up with a warm blanket as rain taps gently at your window. Wherever you are, I hope you're comfortable, safe, and ready to drift gently into wonder. If you enjoy these peaceful explorations of science and nature, a like and subscribe truly helps this channel continue its quiet journey. And to those of you already subscribed, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support means everything. Now, tonight we're venturing somewhere mysterious, somewhere vast and largely unknown. We're going beneath the waves, into the deep places where sunlight fades and strange creatures glide through darkness. I'll try not to make it so fascinating that it keeps you awake. But if it does, at least you'll drift off knowing just how little we truly understand about the ocean depths. So let's begin, shall we? The ocean is Earth's greatest mystery. Covering 71% of our planet's surface, it holds secrets we're only beginning to glimpse. Scientists estimate that we've explored less than 5% of the world's oceans. Think about that for a moment. Less than 5%. The rest remains unknown, unmapped, unexplored. And in those dark depths, in trenches deeper than mountains are tall, in the midnight zone where no sunlight has ever reached, creatures live that we cannot yet imagine. Some we've seen only once, some we've seen in pieces, fragments washing ashore, and some we've only heard, their voices echoing through hydrophones, mysterious and unexplained. These are the unidentified creatures of the sea, the ones that slip through our nets of understanding, the ones that remind us, gently, that Earth still has surprises waiting in the deep. Let's begin where many ocean mysteries begin, in the places we can barely reach. The deep sea is not one habitat, but many, layered like a dream. Near the surface, sunlight filters through the water in shimmering beams, feeding algae and plankton that form the foundation of ocean life. But as you descend, the light dims. By 200 meters down, you've entered the twilight zone, a realm of permanent dusk where shapes become shadows and shadows become mystery. Deeper still, past 1,000 meters, sunlight vanishes completely. This is the midnight zone, where the pressure would crush most surface creatures and the temperature hovers just above freezing. And yet, life thrives here. Not despite the darkness and pressure, but because of the unique opportunities they provide. In this lightless world, many creatures have evolved to make their own light through a process called bioluminescence. It's one of the most common traits in the deep ocean. Scientists estimate that 76% of ocean animals can produce their own glow. Think of that. 3/4 of marine life living as tiny lanterns in the dark, each one flickering with purpose. Some use light to attract prey, dangling glowing lures like fishing rods in front of their mouths. Others use it as camouflage, matching the faint light from above to hide their silhouettes from predators below. Still others flash bright warnings, like burglar alarms of the deep, calling for help when attacked or signaling that they're toxic and best left alone. The colors of this underwater light show are mostly blue and green, wavelengths that travel farthest through water. But in rare cases, creatures produce red or yellow light, invisible to most deep-sea animals, but perfect for secret signals between members of the same species. One remarkable fish, the stoplight loosejaw, produces red bioluminescence, and is the only known animal to use chlorophyll pigments in its eyes to see red light. It hunts with a red spotlight that its prey cannot see, like a burglar with night vision goggles in a room full of creatures adapted only to darkness. The deep ocean is a place of evolutionary marvels, where every creature tells a story of adaptation, survival, and the creative solutions life finds in the most unlikely places. But despite all we've learned about deep-sea life, new discoveries continue to emerge with startling regularity. In late 2024, researchers discovered a creature they'd been searching for since its first sighting in the year 2000. Scientists from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute spotted something translucent and unusual gliding through the water at a depth of 8,500 feet in Monterey Canyon. It had a large hood-like head, a cylindrical body, and what looked like a crown of appendages, except they were attached to its backside instead of its head. They called it the mystery mollusk, and for 24 years they watched it, measured it, and tried to understand what it was. After 150 separate observations, genetic studies, and careful documentation, they finally published a scientific description. The creature's formal name is Bathydavius caudactylus, and it's unlike any sea slug ever documented. It lives in the midnight zone, something unprecedented for a nudibranch. It's almost entirely transparent, using this glassy appearance to hide from predators in a world where darkness alone isn't enough protection. And strangest of all, it can close its hood quickly to trap fast-swimming shrimp, despite moving incredibly slowly through the water itself. This discovery, published after decades of patient observation, exemplifies how much we still don't know. Here was a creature living in one of the most studied stretches of deep ocean in the world, Monterey Bay, where research institutions have sent countless submersibles over the years. And yet, it took 24 years just to confirm what species it belonged to. If this much time and effort is required in well-studied waters, imagine what remains hidden in the less explored corners of our ocean. The vastness of what we don't know is humbling and beautiful in equal measure. Each expedition into the deep returns with more questions than answers, more mysteries than solutions. And that's exactly as it should be. The ocean reminds us that discovery is not a destination, but a journey without end, where each answer reveals 10 more questions waiting quietly in the dark. In early 2025, scientists made a historic observation that had been 100 years in the making. On March 9th, researchers aboard the Schmidt Ocean Institute's research vessel Falkor deployed a remotely operated vehicle near the South Sandwich Islands in the South Atlantic Ocean. At a depth of 600 meters, about 2,000 feet down, the camera captured something extraordinary. A juvenile colossal squid, drifting through the water, almost entirely transparent. This was the first confirmed footage of a colossal squid in its natural habitat. The colossal squid, Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni, was first identified in 1925 when a marine biologist found 2 large arm crowns in the stomach of a sperm whale near the Shetland Islands. Since then, we've learned that these creatures grow to become the heaviest invertebrates on Earth, reaching up to 23 feet long and weighing more than 1,000 pounds. But living colossal squid had never been filmed in the wild until that March day in 2025. The juvenile filmed was only about 1 foot long, see-through like glass, with thin arms and the early signs of the rotating hooks that would one day grow on the club-shaped ends of its tentacles. As it matures, it will lose this transparency and develop an opaque dark red or purple coloring, along with enormous eyes the size of footballs, the largest eyes on the planet. These massive eyes help colossal squid spot their only predator, sperm whales, in the darkness of the deep ocean. Scientists had searched for living colossal squid for so long because these creatures are incredibly elusive. They have exceptional eyesight and seem to detect submersibles long before the submersibles detect them. As one researcher put it, they know we're there long before we know they're there, and they actively avoid us. The successful observation required special low-light cameras that wouldn't alert the wary squid to the presence of human technology. Even after this breakthrough, many mysteries remain. How do colossal squid hunt? What do they eat beyond the occasional toothfish? How long do they live? Where do their larvae travel? We have pieces of the puzzle, fragments from whale stomachs and rare fishing net accidents, but the full picture of their lives remains just out of reach, shimmering in the depths like the creatures themselves. During the same expedition season, researchers also captured the first confirmed footage of another glass squid species, the glacial glass. Squid, Galitophis glacialis, swimming in its natural environment in the Southern Ocean near Antarctica. These discoveries came during an intensive effort to document new marine life, and they revealed just how many large, charismatic creatures remain barely known to science. If animals as substantial as squid, measuring 23 feet long, can evade documentation for a century, what smaller creatures have we overlooked entirely? What miniature mysteries drift through the currents, unnoticed and unnamed? The Southern Ocean proved to be particularly generous with its secrets during recent expeditions. Scientists exploring the waters near the South Sandwich Islands found 30 new species, including what they affectionately called a death ball sponge, iridescent scale worms that shimmer with rainbow colors, new species of sea stars, crustaceans, rare gastropods, and bivalves that have evolved to live in volcanic and hydrothermal habitats. They also observed zombie worms, creatures with no mouth or gut, whose existence was first confirmed in 2002. These worms bore into bones on the seafloor, drawing nutrition from the marrow inside through symbiotic bacteria. They're part of the ocean's cleanup crew, helping to recycle the remains of whales and other large animals that sink to the bottom. Even as these discoveries multiply, scientists estimate that fewer than 30% of the specimens collected have been assessed. The rate of discovery far outpaces our ability to study and understand what we find. It's a beautiful problem to have, this embarrassment of riches, this overflowing cornucopia of the unknown. Scientists also discovered 14 new species in ocean depths exceeding 6,000 meters during another recent initiative. Among the finds was a record-setting mollusk, a carnivorous bivalve that lives in total darkness, and what researchers described as a popcorn-like parasitic isopod. These discoveries employed advanced imaging techniques and DNA analysis, tools that are revolutionizing how quickly we can identify and document new species. But even with modern technology, the deep ocean resists easy answers. For every species we catalogue, dozens more remain unknown, hiding in trenches we haven't yet visited, in underwater caves we haven't yet explored, in habitats we haven't yet imagined. Some discoveries come not from planned expeditions, but from chance encounters and sharp eyes. In 2018, a professional underwater photographer named Ryo Minamizu posted photos of an elegant, ladybug-sized creature he'd seen off the coast of Okinawa, Japan. It appeared to flutter through the water, propelled by billowy outer parts attached to a brown hemisphere. Biologists who saw the images were baffled. It wasn't a worm. It wasn't a mollusk. It wasn't a crustacean. What was it? No one knew. Igor Adameyko, a developmental neurobiologist who also maintains a passion for marine zooplankton, saw the photos on Maness social media and asked if he could study a specimen. When the sample arrived, carefully preserved, Adamako began the painstaking work of identification. Using various staining techniques, DNA analysis, and consultation with other experts, he and his team eventually identified the creature. It turned out to be a colony of parasitic larvae working together, creating what looked like a single organism. This conglomerate creature belonged to a group called Digeneian trematodes, parasites whose juvenile forms often look nothing like their adult versions. The discovery revealed that these organisms, previously thought to lead solitary lives, can form cooperating colonies that move and hunt together. It was a glimpse into a whole hidden dimension of parasitic life cycles, showing that even creatures we thought we understood can surprise us with their complexity and strangeness. The technology we use to explore the deep ocean has evolved dramatically, but even our best tools have limitations. Submersibles create light and noise that alert sensitive creatures to their presence. Many deep-sea animals, particularly intelligent cephalopods like squid and octopuses, seem to perceive and avoid our robotic explorers. This has led some researchers to develop stealthier approaches. One innovation is the Medusa camera system, designed by marine biologist Edie Widder. The Medusa is a quiet, unobtrusive cube equipped with red light illuminators that most deep-sea creatures cannot see. It drifts silently through the water, recording for 24 to 36 hours at depths up to 2,000 meters. Attached to the camera is an electronic lure called the E-jelly, which mimics the bioluminescent distress signal of certain jellyfish. Deep-sea predators, attracted by what they think might be an easy meal, attacking the jellyfish, come to investigate and are captured on film. Using this system, researchers have recorded multiple species of elusive deep-sea squid, including the giant squid, creatures that have evaded most other observation attempts. These recordings have revealed surprising behaviors, showing that giant squid are not passive sit-and-wait predators, but active stalkers that calculate their attacks with precision. But despite these technological advances, we continue to find creatures in the simplest ways, sometimes just by looking more carefully at familiar places. In January 2025, scientists aboard the Falcor examined the seafloor after an iceberg the size of Chicago broke away from the George VI ice shelf in Antarctica. They explored the area that had been hidden beneath 500 feet of ice for potentially thousands of years. What they found was an ecosystem adjusting to sudden exposure, a rare chance to see ocean life in transition, adapting to new conditions in real time. These observations offer glimpses into how ocean communities form, change, and respond to environmental shifts. Climate change is altering the ocean in ways we're only beginning to understand. And expeditions like these help us document these changes before entire ecosystems disappear. The deep ocean is not silent. It's full of sound, some biological, some geological, and some that remain mysterious. The ocean carries sound much more efficiently than air does, allowing whale songs to travel across entire ocean basins. This property makes the ocean an excellent medium for communication, but it also means that strange sounds can propagate thousands of kilometers, creating puzzles for researchers trying to identify their sources. One of the most famous unexplained ocean sounds is the bloop, detected in 1997 by the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The sound was incredibly loud, detected by hydrophones more than 5,000 kilometers apart across the Pacific Ocean. It consisted of an ultra-low frequency noise that rose rapidly in frequency over about 1 minute. When scientists played it back at higher speeds to make it audible to human ears, it sounded like a deep, reverberating bloop, hence the name. Initially, the bloop sparked intense speculation. Its profile resembled biological sounds, leading some to wonder if it came from an unknown marine animal, something even larger than a blue whale. But the sound was far louder than any known animal vocalization. If it was biological, the creature producing it would have to be truly enormous, larger than any known life form on Earth. Other theories suggested underwater volcanoes, earthquakes, or even secret military exercises. The mystery persisted for years, capturing public imagination and inspiring countless stories about sea monsters lurking in the unexplored depths. In 2005, NOAA finally solved the mystery. The bloop was an icequake, the sound of a massive iceberg cracking and breaking away from an Antarctic glacier. As climate change accelerates, these icequakes are becoming more frequent. The enormous pressure and movement of ice produces powerful low-frequency sounds that can travel vast distances underwater. While the explanation lacks the drama of a giant unknown creature, it reveals something equally striking about our planet. The Earth itself is loud. Its geological processes, the grinding of tectonic plates, the cracking of ice, the eruption of underwater volcanoes, all these create a constant background symphony in the ocean depths. But the bloop wasn't the only mysterious sound. NOAA has recorded several other unidentified or previously unidentified sounds that continue to intrigue researchers. The Julia was recorded in March 1999, a screeching metallic groan that lasted about 2 minutes and 43 seconds. It was loud enough to be heard across the entire equatorial Pacific Ocean hydrophone array. NOAA determined it was most likely a large iceberg running aground off Antarctica. The upsweep is a sound that has been recorded since August 1991, consisting of a long train of narrow-band upsweeping sounds, each several seconds long. The sound appears to be seasonal, reaching peaks in spring and autumn, though researchers aren't certain whether this is due to changes in the source or seasonal changes in how sound propagates through water. Some scientists think it may be related to volcanic activity. The slowdown was recorded in May 1997, a sound that decreased in frequency over about 7 minutes, like a descending whale. The sound has been picked up several times each year since. The leading theory suggests it's caused by a large ice sheet moving over land, creating friction that produces these haunting tones. These sounds remind us that the ocean is full of voices, some we can identify, others that remain mysterious despite years of study. Every hydrophone array monitoring the ocean picks up unexpected signals, sounds that don't match any known source. Some are likely geological, products of the Earth's constant transformation. Others might be biological, calls from creatures we haven't yet catalogued, or sounds produced by known animals in ways we don't understand. And some, perhaps, remain genuinely unexplained, waiting for future researchers with better tools and deeper understanding to solve their riddles. The ocean asks us to listen patiently, to resist the urge for immediate answers, to sit with mystery and let it unfold in its own time. In some of the ocean's most extreme environments, far from any sunlight, life has found ways to thrive that challenge everything we thought we knew about the requirements for survival. Along mid-ocean ridges, where tectonic plates pull apart, seawater seeps down through cracks in the seafloor, getting heated by magma chambers below. This superheated water, reaching temperatures of 350 degrees Celsius or higher, dissolves minerals from the surrounding rock and then shoots back up through vents, creating underwater geysers surrounded by strange communities of life. These hydrothermal vent ecosystems were discovered only in 1977, during a deep-sea exploration near the Galapagos Islands. Scientists aboard the submersible Alvin expected to find a barren landscape. Instead, they found an oasis of life, including foot-long clams, white crabs, and forests of giant tube worms standing up to 6 feet tall with bright red, feathery plumes. The discovery was compared to Columbus's discovery of the Americas, a complete upending of expectations that revealed an entire class of ecosystems previously unknown to science. The creatures living at hydrothermal vents survive through a process called chemosynthesis. Instead of using sunlight as an energy source like plants do through photosynthesis, they rely on chemical energy from compounds like hydrogen sulfide emitted by the vents. Specialized bacteria oxidize these chemicals, fixing carbon and producing organic compounds. Many vent animals have evolved symbiotic relationships with these bacteria. Giant tube worms, for example, have no mouth, no digestive system, and no anus. They are, in a sense, just tubes. But inside their bodies, in a specialized organ called a trophosome, they host billions of symbiotic bacteria. The worms absorb hydrogen sulfide and oxygen from the vent water through their bright red plumes, transport these chemicals to the bacteria in their tissues, and the bacteria convert them into nutrients that feed the worm. It's a partnership that allows both organisms to thrive in conditions that would be instantly lethal to most other life forms. Hydrogen sulfide is highly toxic to most animals. Even small concentrations can be fatal. But tube worms have special adaptations that protect them, including unique proteins in their tissues that bind and transport hydrogen sulfide safely. These tube worms grow remarkably fast. In nutrient-rich vent environments, some species can grow up to 85 centimeters per year, making them some of the fastest-growing marine invertebrates. Their white tubes, made of chitin that hardens like an insect's exoskeleton, can extend several meters as the worms grow. The tubes protect them from both predators and the harsh chemical conditions of the vent environment. Despite living in such challenging conditions, or perhaps because of them, some species of tube worms are among the longest-lived animals on Earth. Lamellibrachia loimisi, a species that lives at cold seeps in the Gulf of Mexico, can live up to 250 years. Think about that. Individual worms alive today began their lives before the American Revolution, persisting in the dark and pressure of the deep sea through centuries that humans spent building, changing, fighting, and transforming the world above. Recent discoveries have revealed that hydrothermal vent ecosystems extend beyond the visible seafloor. In October 2024, researchers using remotely operated vehicles to lift lobate lava shelves discovered cavities beneath the seafloor filled with warm fluid and alive with vent animals, including adult tube worms, polychaete worms, and sea snails. This was completely unexpected. The discovery suggests that the seafloor and subseafloor communities are interconnected, with tube worm larvae potentially dispersing through these hidden chambers. Some larvae settle and grow in cracks visible on the seafloor, while others may remain in the cavities below, maturing in spaces we never knew existed. This finding has profound implications. If animals live not just on the seafloor, but in networks of caves beneath it, then hydrothermal vent ecosystems are far more extensive than we realized. Protecting these environments requires understanding not just what we can see, but what lies hidden underneath, in a three-dimensional habitat that extends both horizontally and vertically through layers of porous volcanic rock. Scientists don't yet know how deep or how far these habitats extend, making it difficult to assess their full ecological importance or to protect them adequately from threats like deep-sea mining. Hydrothermal vents also host microscopic life that thrives in conditions that would destroy most organisms. Microbes called extremophiles live directly on the chimney walls of black smoke vents, where temperatures can exceed 100 degrees Celsius. Species like Methanopyrus candleri, a heat-loving archaea, can grow at temperatures up to 122 degrees Celsius, the highest temperature known to be compatible with microbial life. Other species, like Pyrolobus fumarii, grow optimally at 106 degrees Celsius. These organisms harvest energy from hydrogen gas, producing methane or hydrogen sulfide as byproducts. Their existence suggests that life can adapt to almost any condition where liquid water exists, no matter how extreme. This has implications far beyond Earth. If life can thrive in superheated water laden with toxic chemicals in the crushing pressure of the deep sea, perhaps it could exist in similar environments on other worlds. Jupiter's moon Europa has an ocean beneath its icy crust, kept liquid by tidal heating. Saturn's moon Enceladus has geysers shooting water into space from a subsurface ocean. Both might have hydrothermal vents on their seafloors. The lessons we learn from Earth's deep-sea ecosystems help us imagine where and how life might exist elsewhere in our solar system. Throughout the ocean's depths, creatures have evolved appearances and behaviors so unusual they seem almost fictional. The anglerfish is perhaps the most famous deep-sea predator, with its bioluminescent lure dangling from a modified dorsal fin. Female anglerfish can be quite large, while males of some species are tiny, just a few centimeters long. When a male finds a female, he bites into her flesh and gradually fuses with her body, becoming a permanent parasitic appendage that provides sperm when needed. His tissues merge with hers until he's little more than a pair of gonads attached to her side. This bizarre reproductive strategy ensures that in the vast darkness of the deep sea, when males and females encounter each other, they never have to part. Some female anglerfish have been found with multiple males attached, creating strange composite creatures that challenge our usual understanding of what it means to be an individual organism. The goblin shark looks like a creature from ancient nightmares, with pinkish, translucent skin, a long, flattened snout, and jaws that can shoot forward from its skull to snatch prey. It lives in the deep sea and is rarely seen. Scientists know very little about its behavior, its diet, or its life cycle. It simply appears occasionally, a glimpse of something ancient and strange, then vanishes back into the depths. The barrel-eye fish has a transparent dome covering its head, allowing you to see its tubular eyes pointing upward inside its skull. These eyes can rotate, giving the fish a remarkable range of vision, despite being fixed in position. The transparency and the upward-facing eyes help the fish spot prey silhouetted against the faint light from above, while remaining hidden itself. The giant isopod looks like a massive armored pillbug, growing up to 75 centimeters long. It scavenges on the seafloor, feeding on fallen remains of animals that drift down from the surface. These creatures can survive for years without food, their metabolism slowing to barely detectable levels in the cold, nutrient-poor environment of the abyssal plains. The vampire squid, despite its ominous name, is actually quite gentle. It feeds on marine snow, tiny particles of organic matter that rain down from the surface. It has large eyes relative to its body size and can produce light displays by controlling light organs on its body, creating waves of blue and red light that ripple across its surface. When threatened, it can invert its arms, turning itself inside out to display a spiky webbing that makes it look larger and less appetizing. The frilled shark is often called a living fossil because it resembles ancient shark species that swam in the oceans hundreds of millions of years ago. It has 300 teeth, arranged in 25 rows, each tooth with 3 sharp prongs. Its eel-like body and frilled gills give it a primitive, prehistoric appearance. Encounters with frilled sharks are rare, and much about their lives remains unknown. The oarfish is one of the longest bony fish in the world, reaching lengths of up to 36 feet. It swims vertically through the water and has a striking red crest running along its head and down its long, ribbon-like body. When oarfish wash ashore, which happens occasionally, they often inspire sea serpent legends. Their unusual appearance and impressive size make them seem like creatures from mythology, even though they're entirely real. These creatures and thousands more like them populate the ocean depths, each one a testament to evolution's creativity, to life's ability to find solutions in the most challenging environments. They remind us that the ocean is not a single environment, but countless overlapping habitats, each with its own particular conditions, each requiring its own unique adaptations. And for every species we know, there are dozens or perhaps hundreds we haven't discovered yet, living their lives in deep trenches, in underwater caves, in the vast open water of the mid-depths, where food is scarce and survival requires exceptional efficiency and adaptation. The process of discovering and documenting new species has accelerated in recent decades, but it remains a slow, careful endeavor. When researchers find a creature they can't immediately identify, they must photograph it, collect samples when possible, and begin the painstaking work of comparison. Does it match any known species? Is it a juvenile or unusual variant of something already documented? Or is it genuinely new? DNA analysis has revolutionized this process, allowing scientists to compare genetic sequences and determine relationships between species with precision that would have been impossible a generation ago. But genetic analysis requires samples, and obtaining samples from the deep ocean is challenging. Many creatures are too fragile to survive being brought to the surface. Others are too rare to catch, and some resist our attempts to study them, fleeing from our lights and cameras into darkness deeper than we can reach. Each new species description requires not just a specimen, but careful anatomical study, detailed photographs, genetic analysis, and comparison with related species. It can take years or even decades to formally describe a new species, and the backlog of undescribed specimens in museum collections is enormous. Scientists estimate that we've documented only about a quarter of the marine species that exist. That leaves potentially millions of species unknown, living their lives in ecosystems we've barely glimpsed. Some of these unknown species are probably small, obscure, or difficult to distinguish from their relatives without close examination. But others might be large, dramatic creatures that simply live in places we rarely visit, or at depths our technology struggles to reach. The colossal squid remained unknown to science for millions of years, and even after its discovery, another century passed before anyone filmed one alive in its natural habitat. If a creature that large can elude us for so long, what else is out there? Swimming through the darkness, glowing gently in the deep, waiting patiently for the day when human eyes finally find it. The ocean's mysteries extend beyond individual species to include entire ecosystems and biological processes we don't fully understand. Scientists have discovered methane seeps where gas bubbles up from the sea floor, creating habitats for specialized communities of bacteria and animals. They found underwater lakes, pockets of super salty water that sit on the seafloor like pools, complete with shores and waves. They've documented sea cucumbers that can swim, snails with iron-reinforced shells, and worms that create forests of tubes stretching across acres of seafloor. Each discovery adds another piece to the puzzle. But the puzzle is so vast that every piece we place reveals gaps we hadn't known existed. It's like trying to assemble a jigsaw puzzle of infinite size, where the image keeps expanding faster than we can fill it in. Climate change is altering the ocean in ways that affect these deep-sea ecosystems. Warming surface waters change ocean circulation patterns, affecting how nutrients and oxygen reach the depths. As the ocean absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, it becomes more acidic, which affects shell-forming organisms and disrupts the base of marine food webs. Melting ice alters salinity and temperature patterns. Stronger storms stir up sediments. These changes ripple through the entire ocean system, but their effects on deep-sea creatures are particularly difficult to study and predict. Some species may be more resilient than we expect. Others may be more vulnerable. And some ecosystems, like those under ice shelves that are now melting away, may disappear before we can study them adequately. There's a quiet urgency to ocean exploration now, a race to document what exists before it changes beyond recognition. Deep-sea mining poses another threat to these fragile ecosystems. The seafloor contains valuable minerals, including manganese nodules, cobalt-rich crusts, and polymetallic sulfides. Companies have proposed large-scale mining operations to extract these resources. But deep-sea ecosystems are slow to recover from disturbance. In the cold, dark, nutrient-poor conditions of the abyss, animals grow slowly, reproduce infrequently, and take decades or centuries to reach maturity. Disturbing the seafloor through mining could destroy communities that took thousands of years to develop and that might never recover in any human timeframe. The creatures living in these environments, many still unknown to science, could vanish before we ever learn what they are or what roles they play in the larger ocean ecosystem. It's like burning a library before we've read most of the books, destroying knowledge we don't even know we have. Conservation efforts in the deep ocean face unique challenges. The areas are remote, difficult to access, and expensive to study. Many are in international waters, beyond any single nation's jurisdiction, making protection and enforcement difficult. But there are efforts to establish marine protected areas in the deep sea, regions where fishing, mining, and other extractive activities are prohibited or restricted. These protected areas serve as sanctuaries where ecosystems can function without human interference, and as scientific reference points where researchers can study relatively undisturbed environments. They're also insurance policies for the future. If we protect representative samples of different ocean habitats now, we preserve options for future generations. We don't know what medicines, materials, or insights might come from studying deep-sea creatures. Many of the enzymes and compounds that work in extreme environments have potential applications in biotechnology and medicine. The bacteria that thrive at hydrothermal vents, for instance, have enzymes that function at high temperatures, properties useful in industrial processes and laboratory techniques. By protecting these ecosystems, we protect both the creatures themselves and the potential they represent for future discoveries. Sometimes, the most profound mysteries are the simplest ones. Why does the ocean sound the way it does? What creates the constant background noise that hydrophones pick up, that mix of biological, geological, and anthropogenic sounds? How do whales' populations communicate across thousands of miles? What information are they sharing? We know that whales can hear each other across entire ocean basins, but we don't know what most of their vocalizations mean. Are they sharing information about food sources, coordinating movements, maintaining social bonds, engaging in something like gossip or storytelling? We hear their songs, intricate and beautiful, but the content remains largely opaque to us, like listening to a foreign language we can't translate. And whale songs are just one small part of the ocean's acoustic environment. Fish grunt, crackle, and hum. Shrimp create snapping sounds so loud they can stun small prey. Ice cracks and groans. Tectonic plates grind together. Underwater volcanoes rumble. All of this creates a soundscape far more complex and varied than the silent blue void we imagine when we picture the ocean. Sound is fundamental to ocean life, in ways that light is fundamental to terrestrial life. In the darkness, where vision is limited, sound becomes the primary sense, the way animals navigate, find food, communicate, and avoid danger. The deep ocean also challenges our assumptions about the speed of life. In the cold, dark, high-pressure environment of the abyss, everything moves more slowly. Animals have slower metabolisms, grow more slowly, reproduce less frequently, and live longer. A fish that might live 5 years in shallow tropical waters might live 50 years at depth. A coral that grows centimeters per year near the surface might grow millimeters per year in the deep sea. This slower pace of life has a strange beauty to it, a patience that seems almost meditative. In a world where surface humans rush from task to task, where we measure productivity in hours and days, the deep ocean operates on geological timescales. A tube worm colony might persist in the same spot for centuries. A glass sponge might live for thousands of years, filtering water particle by particle, building its delicate skeleton one tiny addition at a time. These creatures remind us that success in life doesn't always mean speed or efficiency. Sometimes it means endurance, steadiness, and the ability to persist quietly through centuries of unchanging darkness. There's something almost spiritual about the deep ocean, something that touches on questions larger than biology or ecology. When we contemplate these extreme environments and the creatures that inhabit them, we're forced to reconsider what's possible, what's normal, what's necessary for life. The deep ocean shows us that life is far more flexible, more creative, more resilient than we often imagine. It finds ways to exist in boiling water and freezing cold, in crushing pressure and absolute darkness, in conditions that seem impossible from our human perspective. And if life can thrive there, in the most extreme environments on Earth, what does that suggest about the possibility of life elsewhere in the universe? It suggests that life, once begun, is remarkably hard to extinguish. That given any foothold, any source of energy and liquid water, life will find a way to establish itself, to adapt, to persist. The creatures we've discussed tonight, the mystery mollusk and colossal squid, the tube worms and anglerfish, the zombie worms and glass sponges, these are not just curiosities, they're our relatives, fellow travelers on this watery planet. We share a common ancestor with every one of them, some distant creature from the ancient seas from which all life on Earth descends. Their story is our story. Their home is our home. The ocean that sustains them regulates Earth's climate, produces much of the oxygen we breathe, and absorbs vast amounts of the carbon dioxide we produce. What happens in the ocean affects all life on Earth, including us. When we destroy ocean habitats, we diminish not just marine life, but the entire planet's ecological health. When we protect the ocean, we protect ourselves. As we near the end of our journey tonight, it's worth reflecting on what these mysteries mean. Why does the ocean hold such fascination for us? Perhaps it's because the ocean represents the last great frontier on Earth, the last place where genuine exploration is still possible, where you can go and see things that human eyes have never witnessed before. Perhaps it's because the ocean reminds us of our own insignificance in the best possible way. Standing on a beach, looking at the vast expanse of water stretching to the horizon, we feel small. But we also feel connected to something larger than ourselves, part of a planet that is mostly water, part of a living system that extends into depths we can barely imagine. The ocean humbles us. It shows us how much we don't know. And in that not knowing, in that vast uncertainty, there's a peculiar kind of comfort. We don't have all the answers, we never will, and that's okay. It means there's always more to discover, always more to wonder about, always more mysteries waiting in the deep. The ocean also reminds us to be patient. Discovery takes time. Understanding takes longer. The mystery mollusk was first seen in 2000, but not formally described until 2024. The colossal squid was first discovered in 1925, but not filmed alive until 2025. These timescales remind us that some questions can't be rushed. Some answers can't be forced. We have to wait for the right technology, the right expedition, the right moment when a creature decides to reveal itself. And in that waiting, in that patient observation, there's a kind of grace. Science at its best is not forceful or aggressive. It's patient, careful, curious. It waits for the world to speak and then listens closely to what it has to say. As we drift toward the end of tonight's exploration, I hope you found something in these stories that resonates with you. Perhaps it's the beauty of bioluminescence, the glow of countless creatures turning the gnome. Dark ocean into a field of living stars. Perhaps it's the strangeness of the mystery mollusk or the majesty of the colossal squid. Perhaps it's the patient endurance of tube worms living for centuries in the toxic heat of hydrothermal vents. Or perhaps it's simply the reminder that Earth still holds mysteries, that not everything has been discovered, explained, and catalogued. There's still wonder in the world. There are still secrets waiting in the depths. And maybe that's exactly what we need to hear, especially in a world that sometimes feels too small, too known, too thoroughly mapped and photographed and posted online. The ocean reminds us that mystery exists not just in distant galaxies or abstract theories, but right here on Earth, in waters that cover most of our planet's surface. When you look at the ocean, remember that beneath the surface, hidden in the depths, creatures are living their lives in ways we can barely comprehend. Some are glowing gently in the dark. Some are hunting with lights they produce themselves. Some are cooperating with bacteria to survive in places where nothing should be able to live. Some are older than nations, drifting slowly through the abyss. And some remain unknown, waiting patiently for the day when a camera catches them in its frame, when a scientist recognizes that they've seen something new, when the slow work of discovery adds one more name to the long list of Earth's creatures. These animals don't know we're searching for them. They don't know we've given them names or written papers about them. They simply exist, doing what their ancestors have done for millions of years, adapted perfectly to their particular corner of the ocean, living and reproducing and disappearing back into the darkness. And there's something beautiful in that, in the way life continues, regardless of whether we're watching, in the way the ocean keeps its secrets, even as we try so hard to uncover them. The ocean is patient. It's been here for billions of years, and will be here long after we're gone. It holds more history than any book, more stories than any library. Every cubic meter of seawater contains plankton and bacteria, larvae and eggs, dissolved nutrients and ancient minerals, all part of a cycle that connects surface to seafloor, coast to open ocean, sunlit shallows to midnight depths. The ocean is not just a place, it's a process, a system, a living entity in constant motion and transformation. And we're part of that system too, even those of us who never venture far from shore. The water cycle connects us to the ocean. The air we breathe contains oxygen produced by marine phytoplankton. The weather we experience is shaped by ocean currents and temperatures. The food many people eat comes from the sea. We are ocean creatures too, in our way, tied to the tides even if we don't often think about it. So, as you drift off to sleep tonight, perhaps you'll dream of the deep ocean. Perhaps you'll imagine gliding through their darkness, surrounded by bioluminescent creatures flickering like underwater fireflies. Perhaps you'll see the enormous eyes of a colossal squid peering at you through the gloom, or feel the warmth of a hydrothermal vent, or hear the strange songs that echo through the depths. Or perhaps you'll simply rest, knowing that somewhere in the world's oceans, mysteries are unfolding quietly in the dark. Creatures we've never seen are hunting, hiding, growing, reproducing, living out their lives in an environment so foreign to us, it might as well be another planet. And that's enough. The mystery itself is enough. The knowing that there's more to discover is enough. Some of the strangest creatures discovered in recent years challenge our very understanding of what animals can look like. In 2019, scientists exploring the outer reaches of Monterey Canyon encountered something that made them pause. A pink fish with bumpy skin was swimming just above the sea floor at a depth of more than 2 miles. It was small, about the size of a pack of playing cards, with a jelly-like body and loose skin instead of scales. One researcher described it as adorable. This was the bumpy snailfish, a species completely new to science. Snailfish are fascinating creatures that inhabit some of the deepest parts of the ocean. In fact, a snailfish holds the current record for the deepest dwelling fish ever documented. These fish have adapted to crushing pressures that would instantly flatten most surface creatures. Their bodies are soft and gelatinous, allowing them to compress slightly under pressure without breaking. Many species have a special sucker disc on their belly that lets them attach to the seafloor or even hitch rides on passing crabs or other animals. The bumpy snailfish discovery was part of a larger effort that identified 3 new snailfish species in California waters. One was almost completely black, adapted to blend into the darkness. Another was long and thin, an eel-like shape that allows it to slip through tight spaces between rocks. Each one represents years of evolution, countless generations adapting to the particular conditions of their small corner of the deep ocean. These discoveries might seem small, just 3 new fish species in a vast ocean. But they represent something larger. They show us that even in well-studied areas, even in places where research institutions have sent submersibles for decades, new species are still waiting to be found. If we're still discovering fish in Monterey Canyon, one of the most thoroughly explored deep-sea sites in the world, imagine what remains hidden in the less accessible parts of the ocean. The seamounts, underwater mountains that rise from the sea floor, are particularly rich in unknown species. In early 2024, scientists explored seamounts off the coast of Chile and discovered more than 100 species that appear to be new to science. Among them was a bright red sea toad, a fish with modified fins that allow it to walk along the seafloor. This walking behavior is partly a hunting strategy. Moving slowly across the bottom allows the sea toad to conserve energy compared to swimming, which is important in the nutrient-poor deep sea. The fish also has a lure extending from its head, similar to an anglerfish, that it uses to attract prey. The discovery marked the first scientific report of a sea toad in the southeastern Pacific Ocean. Walking fish might sound unusual, but they're part of a larger group of bottom-dwelling fish that have evolved leg-like fins. Some can even leave the water briefly, crawling across rocks or mud to reach new pools. These abilities likely evolved from ancestors who lived in shallow, intertidal zones where the ability to move between tide pools provided survival advantages. The sea toad's cousins include coffinfish, batfish, and frogfish, each with their own peculiar adaptations. The deep-sea batfish is particularly charming, with a flattened body and fins positioned like little legs. When scientists photographed one during an expedition to the Indian Ocean, it became an instant sensation on social media. People couldn't believe such a cute creature existed at depths of several thousand meters. But cute or not, these fish are supremely adapted to their environment. Their wide, flat bodies give them stability on the seafloor in areas where currents can be strong. Their camouflage patterns help them blend into the sediment. And like many deep-sea fish, they can survive long periods without food, a crucial adaptation when meals are few and far between. During that same Indian Ocean expedition, researchers discovered thousands of specimens, and scientists estimated that about a third could be new to science. Among the finds was a fish with an unfortunate common name, the bony-eared assfish, alongside more elegant creatures like high-fin lizardfish and various species of lanternfish. Each discovery added to our understanding of how life distributes itself across the ocean floor, how different species carve out niches in an environment that seems uniformly hostile to surface dwellers, but is actually a complex mosaic of microhabitats. Some areas have stronger currents that bring more food. Others have rocky outcrops that provide shelter. Still others have cold seeps or hydrothermal vents that create unique chemical environments. Each of these microhabitats supports its own community of specialists, creatures so perfectly adapted to their particular conditions that they often cannot survive anywhere else. Off the coast of Costa Rica, researchers made another remarkable discovery. While exploring a hydrothermal seep site called Yucca Scar, they found a small, light pink to lavender eel-like fish nestling among tube worms at depths of 5,700 feet. This was Pyrrholicus yakko, a new species of eel pout. What makes this fish particularly interesting is its habitat. Yakkarov scar is unusual because it exhibits characteristics of both cold methane seeps and hot hydrothermal vents. The temperature here can reach up to 41 degrees Fahrenheit, several degrees warmer than the surrounding deep-sea areas. This might not sound warm to us, but in the deep ocean, where temperatures typically hover just above freezing, those few extra degrees make an enormous difference. They create a unique hybrid ecosystem where species from vents and seeps can coexist, something rarely seen anywhere else in the ocean. The eel pout measures only about 6 inches long, with an elongated body that allows it to slip between the tubes and shells of other vent animals. Scientists distinguished it from related species by examining differences in body proportions, bone counts, and sensory pores on its skin. These details might seem minor, but in the world of taxonomy, they're crucial. Each feature tells part of the story of how this fish evolved, how it differs from its relatives, and how it survives in its particular environment. The name Pyrrholicus means firewolf, a dramatic title for such a small fish, but it speaks to the extreme nature of the habitat. Living where superheated water mixes with frigid seawater, where toxic chemicals are abundant and oxygen is scarce, requires exceptional adaptations. The eel pout and other vent species have specialized proteins in their cells that remain stable at temperatures that would denature the proteins of most animals. They have unique respiratory systems that can extract oxygen even from water with very low oxygen concentrations. Some have symbiotic relationships with bacteria that help them process toxic compounds or provide additional nutrition. These fish represent the cutting edge of evolutionary possibility, life pushing into environments that seem impossible, and not just surviving, but thriving there. Another group of deep-sea creatures that continue to surprise scientists are the comb jellies, or ctenophores. These gelatinous animals propel themselves through the water using rows of cilia that beat in coordinated waves, creating shimmering rainbow effects as they catch the light. In 2015, during an expedition off Puerto Rico, scientists discovered a new species of comb jelly swimming at a depth of almost 4,300 meters, nearly 3 miles down. What made this discovery particularly significant was that it was the first species ever identified solely from high-definition video footage. The scientists never captured a physical specimen. They simply observed it through the cameras of their remotely operated vehicle, documenting its unique features in such detail that they could confidently declare it a new species. This represents a shift in how marine biology can be conducted. In the past, formal species descriptions required preserved specimens that could be measured, dissected, and stored in museum collections for future reference. But modern high-definition cameras, often equipped with lasers that provide scale references, can capture details so clearly that identification becomes possible without physical capture. This is particularly important for fragile deep-sea creatures that often don't survive being collected. Gelatinous animals like comb jellies and jellyfish can collapse or disintegrate when brought to the surface. Their delicate tissues, adapted to the high pressure of the deep ocean, simply can't maintain their structure in surface conditions. Video documentation allows us to study these creatures without destroying them, observing their behavior, their movements, their interactions with their environment, all in ways that examining a preserved specimen could never reveal. Deep-sea corals represent another vast frontier of unknown biodiversity. Unlike their tropical reef-building cousins, deep-sea corals don't rely on symbiotic algae for nutrition. They filter feed, capturing tiny particles and organisms from the water flowing past them. Some grow incredibly slowly. Bamboo corals, which can reach 10 feet tall, may take centuries or even millennia to reach that size. Scientists studying their growth rings, much like tree rings, have found individual colonies that are thousands of years old. These ancient creatures were already growing when human civilizations were just beginning, when the pyramids were being built, or when Roman legions marched across Europe. They've persisted through ice ages and warm periods, through changes in ocean chemistry and circulation patterns, quietly filtering water particle by particle for longer than most nations have existed. When bottom-trawling fishing gear drags across the seafloor, it can destroy these coral forests in seconds, obliterating in an instant what took millennia to grow. This is one of the many reasons that scientists advocate so strongly for protecting deep-sea habitats. The timescales involved are simply incompatible with human activities that cause rapid, large-scale disturbance. Giant sea spiders add to the catalogue of strange deep-sea life. These creatures, with legs that can span wider than a dinner plate, lumber across the Arctic and Antarctic seafloor at depths exceeding 13,000 feet. They're not true spiders, but belong to a separate group called pycnogonids that split from the ancestors of spiders and crabs hundreds of millions of years ago. Sea spiders have evolved a bizarre body plan where most of their vital organs, including their digestive system and even parts of their respiratory system, are housed in their long, stilt-like legs. They feed by inserting a tube-like proboscis into soft-bodied prey like anemones, worms, and sponges, essentially slurping up their meals. The giant species found in polar waters are thought to be examples of polar gigantism, a phenomenon where cold water species grow larger than their temperate or tropical relatives. The exact reasons for this aren't fully understood, but it may relate to the high levels of dissolved oxygen in cold water, the slower metabolic rates that allow for longer lifespans and continued growth, or reduced predation pressure in polar environments. The frilled shark looks like something from the age of dinosaurs, and in a sense, it is. This species closely resembles ancient shark fossils from hundreds of millions of years ago. It has an eel-like body, quite different from the streamlined forms of modern sharks, and its gills have frilly edges, giving it its name. Most striking are its teeth, 300 of them arranged in 25 rows, each tooth with 3 sharp, backward-pointing cusps. These teeth are perfect for gripping slippery prey like squid and fish. Once something enters a frilled shark's mouth, those backward-pointing teeth make escape nearly impossible. Frilled sharks are rarely encountered, living at depths where few research missions venture. When one does wash up on shore or get caught accidentally in fishing gear, it creates a sensation because they look so prehistoric, so unlike what we think of when we imagine a shark. Each encounter is precious from a scientific standpoint because we know so little about their lives. How long do they live? How often do they reproduce? What exactly do they eat? How do they find mates in the vast darkness of the deep ocean? These questions remain largely unanswered, waiting for future researchers with better technology and more opportunities to observe these elusive creatures. The oarfish holds the distinction of being the longest bony fish in the world, with specimens measured at up to 36 feet long. These ribbon-like fish swim vertically through the water, their bodies undulating in graceful waves. They have a bright red crest running from their head down the length of their body, giving them a dramatic appearance. Oarfish rarely venture into shallow water, but when they do, or when they wash ashore, they often inspire sea serpent legends. Imagine a sailor in earlier centuries encountering a 30-foot silvery fish with a red crest swimming at the surface or spotted from a distance. It's easy to see how such sightings could fuel tales of sea monsters. Even today, when oarfish appear at the surface, often before earthquakes or other geological events, they attract enormous attention. Some cultures consider them harbingers of disaster, though the connection is more likely that geological disturbances affect deep-sea habitats, causing some species to move to different depths where they're more visible to humans. Oarfish feed on small fish and krill, filtering them from the water as they swim. Despite their impressive size, they're gentle creatures, no threat to humans. But their rarity and unusual appearance ensure that each oarfish encounter becomes a memorable event. The barrel-eye fish represents one of the most unusual adaptations in the deep sea. This fish has a transparent dome covering the top of its head, allowing you to look inside and see its tubular eyes pointing upward. These eyes are fixed in place, but the fish can rotate them, giving it a wide field of view despite their unusual orientation. The transparent dome is filled with fluid and acts like a protective shield for the delicate eyes, while allowing light to pass through. Barrel-eye fish typically hover motionless in the water, their eyes scanning the surface above for the silhouettes of prey or predators. When they spot something interesting, they can tilt their bodies and redirect their gaze. The whole arrangement seems impossibly delicate and complex, yet it works perfectly for the fish's lifestyle. Researchers first discovered barrel-eye fish in the early 20th century, but they only understood the function of the transparent dome recently when they filmed living specimens. The preserved museum specimens had damaged or opaque domes, hiding the remarkable structure underneath. This is another example of why observing animals in their natural habitat is so important. Preserved specimens can tell us about anatomy, but only living observation reveals how that anatomy actually functions. The vampire squid deserves special mention because, despite its ominous name, it's actually one of the gentler inhabitants of the deep sea. This small cephalopod, rarely larger than a football, lives at depths between 2,000 and 3,000 feet in ocean regions called oxygen minimum zones. These are areas where oxygen concentrations are so low that most animals cannot survive. The vampire squid has evolved to extract oxygen from water that would suffocate most other creatures. When threatened, it can turn itself inside out, revealing a spiky webbing between its arms and displaying light-producing organs that create waves of blue and red light across its body. This display makes it look larger and more intimidating. But most of the time, the vampire squid simply drifts through the water, feeding on marine snow, the constant rain of tiny particles, dead plankton, fecal matter, and other organic debris that falls from the surface waters above. It collects these particles using thin filaments that extend from its arms, then draws the filaments through its arms to scrape off the collected food and transfer it to its mouth. This passive feeding strategy requires little energy, perfect for an environment where food is scarce and oxygen is limited. The vampire squid is neither a squid nor an octopus, but belongs to its own unique group, a living reminder that the ocean's biodiversity includes entire branches of the tree of life that don't fit neatly into our familiar categories. As we continue to explore the ocean's depths, we're finding that distribution patterns are more complex than we imagined. Some species that we thought were widespread are actually groups of closely related species, each adapted to slightly different conditions. Other species that we assumed were rare turn out to be common in specific habitats we simply hadn't visited often enough to appreciate their abundance. The deep ocean is not uniform. Temperature, pressure, salinity, oxygen levels, current patterns, seafloor composition, proximity to food sources from surface waters, all these factors and more create a complex patchwork of environments. And life, with its remarkable ability to adapt, has found ways to exploit virtually every one of these niches. Scientists estimate that we've discovered perhaps 25 to 33% of marine species, meaning that millions of species remain unknown. Many of these are likely small invertebrates, microorganisms. But the recent discoveries of large, charismatic species like the colossal squid, the mystery mollusk, new species of fish and coral, all suggest that significant discoveries await us even among larger, more visible organisms. The technology we use to explore these environments continues to evolve. Modern remotely operated vehicles can dive deeper, stay down longer, and carry better cameras and sampling equipment than ever before. Autonomous underwater vehicles can survey large areas without requiring a constant connection to a surface ship. Deep sea landers, platforms that sink to the seafloor and record data for weeks or months before floating back to the surface, allow us to study areas far from shipping lanes and research vessels. Environmental DNA techniques let us identify species from water samples by detecting the genetic material they shed, revealing the presence of organisms we might never see directly. Each technological advance opens new possibilities, answering old questions while revealing new mysteries. The ocean resists easy study. It's vast, deep, and unforgiving of human error. Ships are expensive to operate. Submersibles and robots are complex and require constant maintenance. Weather can shut down operations for days or weeks. And yet we persist, driven by curiosity and by the recognition that understanding the ocean is essential to understanding our planet. Climate change adds urgency to this exploration. As the ocean warms and becomes more acidic, species ranges are shifting. Some animals are moving toward the poles, following the cooler water temperatures they're adapted to. Others are moving deeper, seeking the stable conditions of the abyssal plains. But the deep ocean is not immune to climate change. Even at depths of several thousand meters, scientists are detecting warming trends and changes in oxygen levels. The ocean has absorbed about 90% of the excess heat trapped by greenhouse gases, and about 30% of the carbon dioxide we've emitted. This service to the planet has protected us from even more severe atmospheric warming, but it comes at a cost. The deep ocean's chemistry is changing. Its circulation patterns are shifting. Food webs are being disrupted. Species that have adapted to stable conditions over millions of years now face rapid changes on timescales of decades or even years. We don't fully understand what these changes will mean for deep-sea ecosystems. Some species may prove surprisingly resilient. Others may face decline or extinction. And some ecosystems, particularly those in polar regions or dependent on specific temperature or chemical conditions, may change beyond recognition. The deep ocean also plays crucial roles in global processes that affect all life on Earth. Ocean circulation moves heat from the equator toward the poles, moderating global climate. The biological pump, where organic matter sinks from surface waters to the deep, moves carbon into long-term storage, removing it from the atmosphere for hundreds or thousands of years. Deep-sea sediments archive Earth's climate history, layer by layer, recording changes in temperature, ocean chemistry, and biological productivity, stretching back millions of years. The strange creatures living in hydrothermal vent ecosystems may hold clues to how life first began on Earth, giving us insights into the conditions that allowed the transition from chemistry to biology. The enzymes and compounds produced by deep-sea organisms have already led to important applications in medicine, industry, and research. Many more discoveries surely await us if we protect these habitats and the species they support. Indigenous peoples around the world have long held deep knowledge about the ocean and its inhabitants. Many traditional societies living along coastlines developed sophisticated understanding of marine ecosystems, seasonal patterns, and the behaviors of key species. This traditional ecological knowledge, built up over countless generations of observation and interaction, complements scientific study and often reveals patterns or relationships that short-term research projects might miss. As we work to understand and protect the ocean, incorporating diverse knowledge systems and perspectives is crucial. The ocean belongs to all of us, and all of us have roles to play in ensuring its health and abundance for future generations. Children growing up today will inherit an ocean that's warmer, more acidic, and perhaps less biodiverse than the one previous generations knew. But it will still be full of wonders. It will still hold mysteries, and it will still need people who care about it, who study it, who protect it, who tell its stories. The creatures we've explored tonight, from the transparent mystery mollusk to the football-eyed colossal squid, from the heat-loving tube worms to the walking sea toads, from the adorable bumpy snailfish to the ancient frilled shark. These are not just curiosities. They are Earth's heritage, products of billions of years of evolution, survivors of countless environmental changes, and bearers of genetic information that represents experiments in the art of living. Each species is unique, irreplaceable. Once gone, it's gone forever. And with it, disappears all the potential knowledge it carried, all the roles it played in its ecosystem, all the future evolutionary possibilities it represented. This is why conservation matters. This is why understanding matters. This is why exploration matters. We cannot protect what we don't know exists. We cannot appreciate what we never see. And we cannot make informed decisions about the ocean's future if we remain ignorant of the life it supports and the processes it sustains. As you rest tonight, perhaps you'll dream of these creatures and their dark domain. Perhaps you'll imagine the quiet persistence of a tube worm colony at a deep-sea vent, filtering toxic water and thriving where nothing should be able to survive. Perhaps you'll picture a translucent glass squid drifting through the midnight zone, its organs carefully arranged to minimize its visibility. Perhaps you'll see a field of bamboo coral swaying gently in deep currents, each colony centuries old, each one a living link to the distant past. Or perhaps you'll simply rest, knowing that somewhere in the depths, life continues in forms strange and beautiful, adapted to conditions we can barely imagine, surviving and reproducing and carrying forward the ancient imperative of life itself. The ocean keeps its own time, its own rhythms, its own secrets. It will be here long after we're gone, vast and patient and full of mysteries. But while we're here, we have the privilege of glimpsing those mysteries, of learning what we can, of marveling at the diversity and creativity and sheer stubborn persistence of life in all its forms. Thank you for joining me on this gentle journey into the deep. Whether you're still awake, your mind wandering through underwater landscapes, or drifting peacefully towards sleep with visions of glowing creatures and ancient forests of coral, I hope these stories have brought you something worthwhile. A sense of wonder, perhaps, or curiosity about a world that exists beneath the waves, parallel to our own, but so different that it might as well be another planet. Or maybe just the peaceful knowledge that Earth still has secrets, that not everything has been discovered and catalogued and explained, that mystery still exists, not in distant galaxies, but right here in the waters that cover most of our world. The ocean is vast, ancient, and full of life we're only beginning to understand. And in that vastness, in that ancient darkness, there's comfort. We don't need to know everything. We don't need to have all the answers. We can rest in the mystery, float gently in the uncertainty, and trust that tomorrow there will still be wonders waiting to be discovered. The sea will keep its secrets. The creatures will continue their patient existence in the depths, hunting and hiding, growing and reproducing, living out their lives in an endless succession of generations. And the slow work of exploration will continue, one discovery at a time, one mystery solved, revealing 10 more waiting in the darkness. So, as your breathing slows and your thoughts begin to soften at the edges, remember this: you are made of the same elements that make up these deep-sea creatures. The calcium in your bones comes from ancient stars, as does the iron in your blood, the carbon in every cell. You are stardust, but you're also ocean water. The salinity of your blood roughly matches that of the ancient seas where life first evolved. You carry the ocean within you, a reminder that we're all connected, all part of the same planetary story, all descendants of those first simple organisms that learned to harness energy and reproduce and change and adapt. The deep-sea creatures, strange as they may seem, are your cousins, your relatives, branches on the same tree of life. Their story is your story, their home is your home, and what happens to them ultimately affects you too. Sleep well, knowing that the world is stranger and more wonderful than you often imagine. Dream of bioluminescent clouds drifting through darkness, of tube worms swaying in superheated currents, of squid with eyes like dinner plates scanning the gloom for prey and predators. Dream of walking fish and ancient sharks, of jellies with rainbow cilia and corals older than memory. Let these images carry you gently into rest, into the peaceful darkness that mirrors the ocean depths, into the quiet space where thoughts dissolve and consciousness fades, and sleep takes you on its own mysterious journey. The ocean will still be there when you wake, full of wonders known and unknown, explored and unexplored, patient and eternal, and always ready to reveal its secrets to those willing to look, to listen, to care. From the Sleepy Library, good night. Rest well. Dream deeply, and remember that you're part of a world far stranger and more beautiful than we often imagine. A world where mystery lives not just in the depths, but everywhere, if we only pause to notice. Sweet dreams.